From 8 in the morning until 11 at night, the gates of hell were opened in one cursed house, causing it to have 28 spontaneous fires that until this day remains unexplained in one of the scariest states in all of America. Welcome to the Paranormal Post. I'm Clayton Morris. If you love true stories of the unexplained, then go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. In a quiet state like Indiana, famous for its cornfields and farmlands, it might be one of the least talked about in terms of drama unless the Indianapolis Colts are winning a Super Bowl or the Indiana Pacers are on their way to the NBA playoffs. But with the relaxing farmlands comes grim secrets, from suicide cults to mysterious incidents that led many to shift from being skeptics to fully believing in the paranormal. Oddly, today, you will find Indiana mentioned among the scariest states of any state in America. And in this video, you will get to know one of the very reasons why. In the town of Odon, Indiana, its website reads, "In the town of Odon, we are defined less by boundaries on a map than by the sense of our shared values. Our residents hold dear small-town values. Guided growth, preservation of historical, cultural, natural heritage are just a few of the core principles that make the town of Odon a wonderful place to call home." They might be right about Odon being a wonderful place to call home for its residents, all except for the Hackler family in 1941. In a two-story home in the middle of a large farm, about 100 yards off the main road, lived William and Minnie Hackler. Their 5 children, named William Jr., Dorothy, Garland, Dale, and Virginia. They were a classic farming family, completely unaware of the horrors that were about to be unleashed in their home. The house was first inhabited by Marshall Ketchum after the Civil War. He married his wife Margaret Cedarwood, they moved into the house, and they had 5 children. However, in the 1800s, an unfortunate event happened. And it turns out it would be the first of many horrors to hit this house. 5 of the Ketchum family died inside the house due to a burning fever. 5 children, all dead, all at different times. Can you imagine? Many speculated it to be because of typhus, also known as spotted fever. It was a highly infectious disease that carried with it a purple rash, headaches, fever, and usually delirium, and most notably, death. After all of the death in this house, the remainder of the Ketchums moved out of the house and was once again sold to another family. This time, it was Andrew J. Wilkie, who claimed to be a spiritualist, along with his wife and 2 sons. Was there a curse in this house? Well, we're about to find out, because just after the new Wilkie family moved in, one of the 2 sons was killed in a horrible hunting accident. Andrew was devastated and didn't take the news well. He'd been inconsolable for years after the fact. It's rumored that he buried his deceased son a few hundred yards west of the house in a glass casket with a window in the ground so that he could look down and see his son's face. After that, Wilkie swore that he saw his son's spirit in the house, and he was even seen on more than one occasion conversing with an empty chair. He would stick to his story about the apparitions for years before he died. Due to old age, he finally died and was buried in a nearby cemetery where his son's glass casket was then moved. Then another family took over the home. This time it was the famous Hackler family. In 1940, the Hackler family had already been living in the house for 10 undisturbed years, till one sunny summer day in late June, something was stirring inside the house. Perhaps it was awoken. Who knows? At approximately 8 in the morning, William Hackler was starting his daily routine of farming when he smelled the undeniable smell of smoke. The family immediately jumped into action to locate the source of the smoke. After all, an old farmhouse made of wood could go up like a Roman candle. Suddenly, Dorothy saw a strip of wallpaper on fire under a window in an empty upstairs bedroom. Empty. The Odon Fire Department was called, and after putting out the fire, one of the firefighters suggested that the fire was most likely coming from behind the wall. Behind the wall? The fire department said there might be a hidden chimney. It's not uncommon, of course, to plaster over old chimneys, especially in older homes. So they set about tearing down the plaster and wallpaper and made a horrifying discovery. There was actually no chimneys behind the wall, nor did it seem like it caught fire at all. There was no evidence of fire at all behind the wall, as if what was behind the wall was a totally different house altogether. And further, if the fact that this was in the summer and there was no way anyone would be using a chimney, that should be proof enough that this started on its own. I mean, have you ever been to Indiana in the summer? I have. It's humid, it's hot, and you'd have to be crazy to make a fire. On top of all of this, this house wasn't even equipped to receive electricity yet, so the fire couldn't have been caused by electricity. So the firefighters were only led to believe that one of the hacklers started the fire. Despite the family saying that wasn't true, no one would set their house on fire, the mystery deepened when the firefighting team left the house. And as soon as they went back to the Odon Fire Department, they were called back again to extinguish another fire. This time, the fire started from inside a mattress in another bedroom. That will mark only the second unexplainable fire in the house. Then the fire started igniting from seemingly everywhere. First, a pair of Williams coveralls were hanging behind a door and they went up in flames. Then a firefighter noticed smoke coming up from between the covers of a book. As he opened it, he found the inside of the book on fire. Soon, another fire started from the other side of the house, also from the wall, just like the first fire. But this time, the firemen tore down the plaster immediately, and yet again, they found nothing behind it, nor did the flames reach that area. The hacklers and firemen found and put down 9 fires in total, from 8 in the morning to 11 in the morning. And sadly, they were nowhere near done with the flames. William told a local reporter one fire even started inside of an empty desk drawer. The commotion on the premises seemed to alarm the neighboring houses too. So 2 women rushed to the hacklers to offer some help. As they were standing in the living room trying to make sense of what in the world was happening, the window behind them suddenly burst into flames. But it wasn't the window frame. It was actually only the curtains, leaving the window behind it completely fine. Then, minutes later, the curtains across the room also started going up in flames in the same type of manner. A paper divider that was placed between springs of mattresses in another room also caught fire and was completely destroyed. By that time, along with the neighbors standing there and reporters watching inside and outside of the house of complete shock of what their eyes could see but their brains couldn't process, one of the neighbors even told a reporter, "If I'd not been in the house at that time and seen it with my own eyes, I would not have believed it." Oddly enough, it seemed like the only things that were reduced to ash were the objects that were on fire. Everything around the item was seemingly untouched, like the book. A firefighter who was resting in the kitchen witnessed a calendar on the wall bursting into flames. That day, the firefighter, the hacklers, and the neighbors extinguished a total of 28 fires. It was around 11 at night when the final fire was put out, and the exhausted hacklers decided to collect what little beddings they had left that weren't on fire. They moved them out to the backyard. It was summer after all, and they slept out there so they didn't have to worry about house fires any longer. William told a reporter, "I don't believe in spooks, so the only thing I was afraid of that night was more fires breaking out." But as it turned out, no fires would start for an entire following week. But the house became a focal point to everyone in Indiana to come gaze at the unexplained mystery house and subsequently giving theories to what has happened. Someone proposed that the lightning rods located on the roof of the house may have caught an electrical charge and thus conducting the heat to the nails in the house walls. Another was convinced that the farmhouse was in the center of a strong magnetic field that triggered the fires to ignite. Some said that an abandoned water well was releasing gases that reacted to the items that caught fire inside the house. But again, pieces of wallpaper catching fire from well gases? That hardly seems like it would react to water and gases. It was also a possibility that the fires were created as some sort of a prank, either from the hackler kids themselves or perhaps someone else. But 28 pranks? Doubtful. Do you know any kids brazen enough to set off 28 fires in their own house? And lastly, the most widespread theory is that the house was cursed, giving its disturbing history. As you already know, the first family living in the house by the name of Ketchum also had 5 kids. They all died as a result of a high temperature, a fever. It could have been a warning that the house itself will also have a high temperature, nearly a century later. Then came Wilkie, the spiritualist who lived in the house, who had conversations with his deceased son and who buried him in a glass casket nearby. Indiana State then labeled the case as unexplained and to be shut forever after it caused the Hacklers hundreds of dollars in damage and destroyed their belongings. The next month, however, the family decided to take everything that wasn't ruined or burned to a crisp, and with the help of their neighbors, William decided to tear the house down, bit by bit, and then rebuild it from scratch, but a mile away from its original location. And the Hacklers never had any incidents of fire ever again. Despite the house not being part of this earth anymore, the horrors it witnessed will always be told around campfires in Indiana, and Odon for sure. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, so that way you'll never miss one of our videos. And share it with your friends if they're interested in unsolved mysteries. And let me know down in the comments, what do you think started all of these fires in that house in 1941? We'll see you next time, everyone.